It is the season for Christmas video games. However, you will have to scrape the bottom of the game barrel to find those festive games. But they're out there. The funniest thing about these games is, if it weren't for their Christmas themes, they would most likely be forgotten by today, as more often than not they're just very bad games, or just plain weird with that crazy Euro vibe to them that they always seem to have. But out of all these games, the Daze Before Christmas stands out because of its interest in history, and apart from being stupidly easy, short, and just plain bonkers, it's not that bad of a game. So for this festive season, let's talk about the Daze Before Christmas. It wouldn't be Christmas if I didn't review a festive game, and the Daze Before Christmas is probably one of the best known. But why is it all these festive games have crazy long-winded stories to them that just make no sense? Funcom were ahead of the Christmas pack in that they knew the stories to these types of games was always an afterthought, and I love that it didn't waste my time by trying to come up with one. Once you press start, you're shown some text that basically says all your elves have been scared off and you need to go find them and then deal with the menace who's been trying to ruin Christmas. As simple as this game's story is, it was strangely effective at getting me into this game's festive spirit, but beyond that, can this title hold your attention? In the Days Before Christmas, you get to play as Santa himself, and for a well-rounded old man, he can sure run. Just look at him go! But backed up behind our jolly old Saint Nick is some solid and responsive controls, especially in the jumping department. Jumping in this game just feels right, and that's half the battle with creating any decent platformer. If you press jump again in mid-jump, then you can land on enemies to turn them into presents, or you could just use Santa's magic attack. The jumping attack works well enough, but you could easily get away without using it. Collecting bells acts as this game's checkpoint, and as easy as this game is, who would pass up an opportunity to potentially save themselves having to restart at the beginning of the level again? Collecting coffee turns you into Santa's evil twin, which I'll go into more details later, and collecting lightning boxes enables your magic to melt ice. While this game doesn't have many power-ups, I just mainly stuck to Santa's standard magic attack, as I never really needed anything else to help me get through this game. The main goal of this game is to get to the end of each level, but if you want a little more substance from this game, then you can always just go for that high score. Everything from collecting and delivering presents, to killing enemies, and even saving some of your reindeers, thanks to the fire power-up, all help to rack up that high score. Other than getting through this game and achieving that high score, there's not much else to do. But if all you're looking for is a quick and simple festive fix, then you can't go wrong with the Days Before Christmas. And even though this game's soundtrack isn't all that merry, it still does a decent job at building atmosphere and sometimes, but not always, leaving you with a sense of bewilderment at some of this game's quirks. Dude, put it away, you got presents to deliver. It's really hard to find any major faults with this game other than maybe pointing out its bizarre design choices, and you know what? That's exactly what we're gonna do. The first boss fight with the evil snowman is so lame. If you position yourself correctly, he can't hit you, but it still takes a million hits to kill him. To be honest, every boss fight in this game is a pushover once you figure out their pattern. I mentioned earlier that one of this game's power-ups turns you into Evil Santa. Being Evil Santa makes you invincible, but one huge drawback to being invincible is you can't collect presents. So what's the point of being Evil Santa then, if one of this game's goals is to collect presents to deliver to all the good boys and girls? In these sections you get to deliver all the presents you've collected from the last few levels, but trying to get those presents down them chimneys is hard, and if you run out of them then all you'll be doing is dodging enemies until the bonus stage is finished. After playing through this game, I got the impression it was originally meant to have 6 levels with 4 stages in them, with 1 boss fight, and also 1 end of level bonus stage. Because this game was short, or maybe even unfinished, I suspect Funcom might have just decided to ditch the 6-level structure and just randomise all 4 stages within them into their own levels to hide this issue. It just seems strange to me to start off in Santa's hallway and then find yourself outside in the North Pole, followed by some underground cave action, and then back in Santa's workshop. Video games don't always need to make sense or follow some kind of logic, and it's perfectly fine to have a bunch of random levels loosely tied together that try to tell a story, but the Daze Before Christmas levels are not connected to each other in any way and are definitely not attempting to tell a story. So what's this game trying to say? I suspect all this game is saying is, crazy stuff happens at Christmas, now go knock yourself out. I've completed this game 3 times, and in each playthrough I never needed more than an hour to finish it. But then again, I don't think anyone playing this game now is expecting much from it. Did you know there was a Super Nintendo port of this game? Yeah, to be honest, I wasn't surprised to find out either, but I was surprised by this port's differences, and a small piece of history about it as well. Visually, the SNES port looks almost the same as the Mega Drive version apart from being slightly more colourful, but it runs way too fast. I think the reason for the speed up might be because the game was originally designed for PAL regions, which uses a slightly slower frame rate, and porting this game to NTSC regions might explain the speed up, but that doesn't explain why the PAL SNES port also runs faster. Maybe if I hadn't played the Genesis version first, then I might have been okay with playing a SNES port, but I just couldn't get used to playing this game at its frantic speed. Despite this port's huge negative, it at least has better sound and music thanks to the SNES's superior sound chip. Interestingly, the Super Nintendo port had 1 programmer working on it, and the porting process took about 6 months. Ironically, Sunsoft USA went bankrupt just as the SNES version was being finished. Now that we have the Super Nintendo version and its little bit of history all cleared up, I can finally tell the tale of how the Daze Before Christmas became a rare and obscure Christmas game. So strap onto your Christmas hats, it's going to be an interesting history lesson. The Sega Mega Drive PAL version of The Daze Before Christmas was only released in Australia, along with Echo Jr. and Fatal Fury 2. This game had a limited run in this territory, and now commands a high asking price whenever it goes for sale on eBay. Carl-Henrik Starstedt, the lead programmer for the Mega Drive version, has stated that The Daze Before Christmas took about a year to develop, but he didn't start working on it until about 6 months into its development. He also said that source code from Funcom's previous game, We're Back, A Dinosaur Story, was integrated into The Daze Before Christmas. I played a little bit of A Dinosaur Story, and to put it politely, it's a very unforgiving game. But despite that, you can still see the similarities between these 2 games, and how the subtle changes in the code made The Daze Before Christmas a fairly fun game and a vast improvement over A Dinosaur Story. But the finished game still ended up being too short and way too easy. Talk about going from one extreme to the other. Maybe with some more development time, this game could have been fully developed into something special, but I suspect it had to be finished in time for the 94 holiday season, which might explain why the few levels this game has was shuffled around to make this look like a bigger experience than it actually was. Even with everything going against this game, it did still go into the manufacturing stage, but not for very long. Shortly after the first run had shipped, the game was cancelled due to quality issues. And that's the reason why I've been easy on this game, because it was almost an unreleased Christmas game. Now, normally I don't encourage the use of emulation, but since this title is so rare with no legal means of playing it now, unless you pay a high asking price for it on eBay, then I say play The Daze Before Christmas through whatever means you can and marvel at this quirky festive game. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and thank you for watching.